I was just 29 when my husband's will was read. His mistress grinned as she claimed the mansion. I was left with nothing except a broken-down shack on the outskirts of town. When I objected, my father-in-law snarled, "Be thankful. At least you got something." That night, I drove to the shack, but the moment I opened the door, my legs buckled. What I found inside changed everything. Can you believe that at 29, my husband's will left me with absolutely nothing but a rotting shack, while his mistress got our sprawling mansion? It was a humiliation so profound it still makes my stomach clench. But what I found inside that shack changed everything. It blew my entire world apart. My name is Sophia. Just a few weeks ago, I was navigating the crushing grief of losing Marcus, my husband, in a sudden car accident. Then, there I was sitting in the polished, mahogany-paneled law office of Harrison & Associates. It felt like a stage, and I was the unsuspecting star of a cruel play. Across from me, Melissa Crawford, Marcus's mistress, tapped her perfectly manicured fingers on the gleaming table. She wore a dress that screamed anything but mourning, and every time her eyes met mine, it was a predatory smirk, a cat toying with a wounded bird. "That fits her perfectly. Cheap and pathetic," she'd whispered to a friend, loud enough for me to hear. It felt like acid on my skin. Everyone else in that room, Marcus's parents, the stoic lawyer, they all looked at me with either pity or satisfaction. Certain Marcus had shown me exactly what I was worth. Then the lawyer droned on, revealing the cruel reality. The mansion, our home, the place where I'd poured 2 years of my life into making it ours, was Melissa's. The investment portfolio, the luxury cars, the Aspen vacation home, where we'd celebrated Christmas, all hers. My blood ran cold with each item. "This is insane." I finally managed to gasp, the wedding band on my finger cutting into my palm. "We were married. He can't just—" Richard, Marcus's father, cut me off, his voice like a steel blade. "Everything was in his name, Sophia. Separate property. All purchased before your marriage, or with his inheritance. You're making a scene." "Making a scene?" My laugh was harsh, brittle. "Your son just left everything to his mistress, and I'm making a scene?" "Be grateful," he sneered, his steel-gray eyes narrowing. "At least you got something. Marcus could have left you nothing at all. Grateful. Grateful for a worthless, rotting shack." The lawyer cleared his throat, pushing a rusty, ancient key across the table. "To my wife, Sophia Marie Whitmore, I leave the property at 1847 Old Mill Road, commonly known as the Fisher Shack." The Fisher Shack. Everyone in town knew it. An abandoned, ramshackle building on the outskirts, the kind parents told ghost stories about. And my husband had left it to me. As I walked out, Melissa's taunting voice followed me. "Have fun in your shack. I hear it's lovely this time of year." I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I made it to my old Honda Civic, the car Marcus always complained about, before the sobs finally broke free. By sunset, the world was painted in mocking shades of orange and pink. I should have gone to my sister Elena's, but something pulled me toward Old Mill Road. Morbid curiosity? Or a whisper in the back of my mind, like Marcus's voice. "There are places I'll never let you go, Sophia. Not safe for you." He'd said that once. Now I wondered what he was hiding. The shack squatted in a clearing like something from a horror movie. Its roof sagged, boards covered the windows like vacant eyes, and vines clawed at its siding. It was past 9 p.m. I was alone. This place looked ready to collapse. But that whisper persisted. What was Marcus hiding? The key groaned in the lock, then turned. The door shrieked open, sending bats fluttering into the night. My heart hammered, but I pushed through, my phone's flashlight cutting through the oppressive gloom. The air was thick with dust and rot, but underneath, something metallic sharp like old pennies or blood. I shook it off. The floorboards groaned with every step, and dust motes danced like tiny ghosts. The walls, they were covered in carved markings. Initials, dates, symbols. January 1987. The deal is done. 1993. They know. Run. 2001. It was code, numbers and letters that made no sense. In one corner, a violently scratched-out family tree. Was Marcus's name there? Any Whitmore? It was too faded to tell. Then, 3 taps. A pause. 3 more. From beneath the floor. My rational mind screamed settling house, but it sounded so deliberate, so human. My flashlight beam wavered. Hello. I whispered, my voice barely there. Silence. Then, the knocking again from a different spot, as if something was moving, tracking me. I decided to leave, but my light caught something in a broken mirror frame, a photograph. Marcus, younger, maybe 10 years ago, standing right here with 3 other men in expensive suits, champagne glasses raised. One man looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. The back was dated. Phase 1 complete. 2014, a year before I met Marcus. Had all been planned? Another knock from below, so forceful dust rained down. I stumbled back, my hip hitting a covered table. The sheet fell away, revealing dozens of photographs. All of me. Me at college graduation. Me jogging in the park. Me shopping. Some were years before I met Marcus. In one, I was 17 in my high school uniform, completely unaware that someone was watching me, documenting me, studying me. My legs gave out. I sank onto the dusty couch, not caring about the cloud of debris. The wedding band, my talisman, slipped from my numb fingers, rolling into the shadows. How long had they been watching? Who were they? I wasn't special. Just Sophia, middle-class Sophia, who thought she'd won the lottery with Marcus. The knocking stopped. A scratching sound replaced it, circling beneath the floor. My phone buzzed. Elena, asking if I was okay. Then all the lights on my phone died. The screen went black. Dead. The darkness was absolute. And in that darkness, a door opened somewhere deep inside the house. Footsteps. Slow, measured. Stopping. Examining. Getting closer. I held my breath, pressing deeper into the couch. The footsteps entered the room. They stopped. I could hear breathing. Not mine. The smell of cigarette smoke drifted through the air. Then my phone blazed back to life. The flashlight automatically on. The room was empty. But on the dusty table, a new item, a leather-bound notebook. Written on its cover, in faded gold, Sophia. My hands trembled as I reached for it. Every instinct screamed, run. But I had to know. Marcus's handwriting. Entries from 3 years before we met. Subject acquired. Surveillance begins tomorrow. Our insists she's perfect for the role. No family money, limited connections, ambitious enough to be grateful for attention. If she's as malleable as the background check suggests, Phase 2 can begin within 18 months. I was going to be sick. Our entire relationship. Our marriage. An operation. For what? I flipped through pages, surveillance logs, notes about my habits, my weaknesses. Strategies for making me fall in love, for keeping me isolated. A door slammed somewhere in the house. Then another, louder, closer. Every door slamming in sequence. I ran, burst through the front door, stumbling over rotten steps, phone light swinging wildly. Behind me, the house went silent again, but I could feel it watching. As my headlights swung across the shack one last time, I saw a figure in a broken window. Tall, unmoving, a silhouette against the deeper darkness within. Marcus's voice echoed from my memory. A week before he died, after too much wine. If anything happens to me, Soph, stay away from the shack. Promise me. I'd laughed it off. Now, parked outside Elena's house, engines still running, I finally understood that fear. Whatever was in that shack, whatever secrets it held, they were dangerous. Dangerous enough that Marcus had tried to protect me, even while using me. But protection or not, planned or not, I was going back. Tomorrow, in daylight, with backup. Because somewhere in that rotting structure was the truth about my marriage, my life, and possibly my future. The notebook proved it. Someone wanted me to know. And if Marcus and his family had orchestrated my life for their purposes, I would use their own weapon against them. The shack they'd left me as an insult, it would become the key to my revenge. The morning sun did nothing to make the shack less ominous. Elena was horrified. Sophia, this place should be condemned. Tom, her boyfriend, a contractor, confirmed it. One good storm and the whole thing comes down. But I wasn't listening. My eyes were on the window where I'd seen that figure. Just an empty frame in daylight. Yet, I knew what I'd seen. I need to get something, I said, already moving. Important paperwork. Financial documents. It wasn't entirely a lie. The notebook hinted at more. Elena and Tom came with me. The house felt different in daylight. Less malevolent, more sadly decrepit. The photos were gone. The footprints vanished. What exactly are we looking for? Tom asked. Anything important, I replied vaguely, searching the walls. Marcus's notebook mentioned a safe room. It was Elena who found it. This room is too small, she said, pointing to what should have been a bedroom. There's at least 3 feet missing. Tom immediately pried at the boards. Behind them, a hidden space. A ladder leading into darkness. That's not up to code, Tom muttered, but he was already testing its stability. The hidden cellar was a different world. Concrete walls, smooth cement floor. Industrial shelving packed with banker's boxes labeled with dates and code names. A workbench covered in surveillance equipment, cameras, recording devices, even phone tapping gear. What the hell was your husband into? Elena whispered. Then I saw it. A box labeled Acquisition. Sophia Marichun. 2008 to 2015. My maiden name. The years before I met Marcus. Inside, detailed reports, photographs, copies of my college transcripts, even medical records. A psychological profile dissected my personality. Subject shows signs of father abandonment issues, likely to respond positively to older male authority figures. Recommend Marcus adopt paternal protective role initially. Transitioning to romantic interest once trust established. My hand shook. I was a lab rat. Every vulnerability catalog weaponized. Notes about an ex-boyfriend. How that failed relationship left me primed for rescue fantasy. Observations about my career ambitions. How my desire to prove myself made me susceptible to lifestyle elevation through marriage. Sophia, Tom's voice was tight. You need to see this. He stood by another shelf, holding an open box. Rolls of cash. Old bills, some from the 80s, all in sequential serial numbers. Hundreds of thousands, maybe more. This is evidence of something, Elena said, snapping pictures. Money laundering. Maybe we should call the police. No, I said, sharper than intended. Not yet. I need to understand what this is first. What Marcus was involved in. I moved to another box. More recent. Contracts. Names I didn't recognize. Richard Whitmore. N.J. Fisher. Witnessing signatures. Fisher. Like the shack. A photograph slipped out. Older, 1970s. Men in suits standing in front of this shack. A younger Richard Whitmore. Those cold eyes, unmistakable. But next to him, Joseph Fisher, the real estate developer who disappeared in 1987 under mysterious circumstances, leaving a fortune never found. Oh my God. I breathed, pieces clicking into place. They killed him. They killed Fisher and took his money. Sophia, that's a huge accusation. Elena began, but I was already pulling out more documents. Fisher disappears August 1987. Contracts begin transferring his properties to shell companies in September 1987. All witnessed by Richard Whitmore and Associates. Another photo. Same men, celebrating 2 weeks after Fisher vanished. Tom was pale. This serial number range, my dad talked about this. These bills were part of a federal investigation in the early 90s. A massive real estate fraud scheme, never fully solved. Then, heavy footsteps above. Someone was here. We hadn't heard a car. Richard Whitmore's voice drifted down, calm, conversational. I know you're down there, Sophia. We need to talk. My blood turned to ice. Don't come up, Elena hissed. Call 911. Richard continued, as if he'd heard her. The police won't help you, dear. Half of them are on our payroll. Have been since Fisher's time. He chuckled. Come up, or I'll come down. This ladder is the only way out. I looked at Elena and Tom, fear in their eyes, but also a growing determination. Elena grabbed an old camera, hefting it like a weapon. Tom picked up a crowbar. We go up together, I said quietly. He won't do anything with witnesses. But I was wrong. Richard wasn't alone. 3 hulking men in suits stood with him. Richard looked perfectly at ease, examining the wall carvings with nostalgia. Marcus was supposed to keep you away from here. That was the entire point of the marriage. Keep you close but controlled. Make sure you never went digging into your connection to all this. What connection? I demanded, my voice shaking. I'd never even heard of this place. Richard finally turned, his smile pitying. Your mother's maiden name was Fisher. Joseph Fisher was your great-uncle. When we discovered you existed, well, we couldn't risk you making a claim on his estate. The room spun. So, they had Marcus marry me to what? Initially, yes. But Marcus grew fond of you. Started having second thoughts. He was going to tell you everything. Richard's expression hardened. That's why he had to go. You killed your own son. Elena's voice was horrified. Richard didn't deny it. The syndicate comes first. Marcus forgot that when he fell in love with you. He spat the word love like a curse. Sentiment has no place in business. This isn't business. It's murder. Tom stepped forward. Prove it, Richard said simply. My son died in a tragic accident. Case closed. I thought about the notebook in my bag, the documents, the money. If you were going to kill me, you would have done it already. Richard laughed. Kill you? My dear, you're worth more alive. You're the last legitimate Fisher heir. With you under our control, any future claims, any investigations, they all stop with you. Marcus was supposed to get you pregnant, ensure the bloodline continued under our supervision. But he got sentimental, started talking about running away with you. I'll never help you. You already are, Richard replied. Just by accepting the shack, you've acknowledged the will. By entering, you've established possession. And now that you've found our little storage facility, well, you're complicit. Your fingerprints are all over those documents. That money, you've handled it. If this ever comes to light, you'll go down with us. It was a trap. I'd walked right into it. You're insane if you think I'll keep quiet. Richard was already moving toward the door, his men following. You'll keep quiet because you have no choice. Go to the police with your wild theories. Detective Morrison plays poker with me every Thursday. Judge Hamilton's daughter got into Harvard thanks to a generous donation. The district attorney owns 3 properties that used to belong to your great-uncle. He paused. Clean up this mess, Sophia. Get rid of those documents. Forget what you think you know. We'll leave you alone. But if you try to use what you found here against us, remember, you're not just fighting me. You're fighting 40 years of established power. They left. We stood in stunned silence. We're going to the FBI, Elena finally said. This is organized crime. But I was staring at a still smoldering cigarette, but Richard's men had left. The same brand I'd smelled last night. They'd been here, watching me discover their secrets, letting me find just enough to implicate myself. He's right about one thing, I said slowly. My fingerprints are all over that evidence now. If they spin it right, I look like I was involved. The neglected wife who knew about her husband's criminal connections and tried to profit from his death. That's ridiculous. Tom protested, but I could see him realizing the angles. How a good lawyer could twist the narrative. We need to be smarter, I said. We can't just run to law enforcement without knowing who we could trust. First, we document everything. Every piece of paper, every serial number, every photograph. We build a case so airtight that even corrupted officials can't ignore it. Elena was already taking photos, but she looked troubled. Sophia, what if they come back? What if they decide you're too much of a liability? I thought about Marcus's accident. No skid marks. No sign he tried to break. He'd been coming from his parents' house that night, sounding agitated, saying he needed to tell me something important. Then we make sure I'm not an easy target, I said. We make copies of everything, store them in different places. We create a dead man switch. If something happens to me, everything goes public. Tom straightened up by the cellar entrance. There's another level. He pointed to the ladder, which continued down past the first cellar floor. We opened the hatch, revealing a second, smaller, older chamber. A metal filing cabinet. Inside, not just financial documents, but photographs of crime scenes, what looked like murder confessions, and a leather-bound ledger detailing every crime the syndicate had committed since 1987. Names, dates, methods. And most importantly, who had ordered each action. Marcus's death was in there. Termination order number 47. Subject, Marcus Whitmore. Reason, security breach / potential whistleblower. Authorized by R. Whitmore. Method, vehicular incident. Status complete. Richard had signed his own son's death warrant. But it was the next entry that made my blood run cold. Termination order number 48. Subject, Sophia Whitmore. Reason, inherited liability. Authorized by R. Whitmore. Method, TBD. Status, pending review. We need to leave. Elena cried, her voice high with panic. We grabbed everything we could carry. The ledger, key documents, photos. As we climbed up, I noticed fresh scratches around the door frame. Cameras, Tom whispered, his face pale. They're watching us right now. We ran for Tom's truck. As we sped away, I saw them in the rearview mirror. 2 black SUVs emerging from the tree lane, following. Where do we go? Elena clutched the ledger. The Coastal Tribune, I said, thinking fast. Jenny Martinez. She's an investigative reporter. Tom took a hard right, tires squealing. They were gaining. We burst on a main street, Saturday shoppers jumping back as we careened past. The Tribune building was ahead. We screeched to a stop. I was running before Tom, had even parked, the ledger clutched to my chest. I burst through the doors, past the startled receptionist, up to the newsroom. Jenny Martinez's eyes widened. Sophia, what? Richard Whitmore killed his son. I gasped, shoving the ledger at her. And Joseph Fisher and others. It's all in here. The whole syndicate, 40 years of crimes. They're coming for me right now, Jenny. She didn't hesitate. Grabbed the ledger, her scanner warming up. Get everything digital now. Elena and Tom burst in behind me, arms full of documents. Other reporters gathered. Jenny started barking orders, and the newsroom became a hive of activity. Scanning, photographing, uploading. They can't stop all of us, Jenny said, fingers flying. Not once it's out there. Through the window, I saw the black SUVs pull into the parking lot. Richard stepped out, phoned his ear. He looked up. Our eyes met. He said something to his men. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. You've made a serious mistake. Richard's voice was calm. Too calm. You destroyed it yourself when you killed Marcus, I said, putting him on speaker for Jenny to record. When you killed Joseph Fisher. Fisher was a pedophile, Richard said bluntly. Did you see that in your precious documents? He had a thing for teenage boys. 3 families came to us, begging for justice the law wouldn't provide. Yes, we killed him. We took his money and used it to build something better. Schools, hospitals, homeless shelters, all funded with Fisher's blood money. I faltered. This wasn't in the documents. Jenny shook her head at me. Lie. Even if that were true, it doesn't justify 40 years of murder and corruption. Doesn't it? We cleaned up this town, Sophia. When we took over, it was dying. Drugs, violence, poverty. Now look at it. Thriving, safe. All because we were willing to do what needed to be done. You killed your own son. A pause. Marcus was weak. He fell in love with you. Richard gave him every opportunity to come back to us, but he chose you. The venom was back, so you had him murdered. I had a problem solved, just like I'll solve this one. The line went dead. The SUVs pulled away. Why were they leaving? Jenny's computer pinged. Then another. What's happening? I asked. Her face was white. Every file we just uploaded, they're being deleted. From our servers, the cloud, everywhere. Tom confirmed it on his laptop. Every copy I emailed to myself, to my contacts, all gone. It's like they never existed. I looked down at the physical ledger in my hands. All we had left. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. You have 1 hour to return what you've stolen. After that, termination order number 48 goes into effect. Your friends, too. Their families. Everyone you've involved in this. 1 hour. We run right now. Elena grabbed my hand. But I was thinking about Marcus, the fear in his eyes. He'd known this was coming. He tried to protect me the only way he knew how. By leaving me the shack. Knowing I'd find the truth. Knowing I'd have leverage. No, I said quietly. We don't run. We fight. But we fight smart. I turned to Jenny. How fast can you get a camera crew here? She blinked. 20 minutes. Do it. Live broadcast. We go public with everything right now. Before they can stop us. I held up the ledger. They can delete digital files, but they can't delete a live broadcast that thousands of people are watching. Jenny was already on the phone. Other reporters set up cameras. I looked back at the window. The black SUVs had returned. Now, there were more, surrounding the building. Sophia, Tom said quietly, what if they don't care about witnesses? What if they're past that point? I thought about Richard's voice, the resignation when he talked about Marcus. They were past caring about collateral damage. This was endgame. Then we make sure the truth outlives us, I said, opening the ledger to Marcus's termination order. We make sure his death meant something. The camera's red light blinked on. Jenny held up 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. Good evening, she began, her voice steady. We're interrupting our regular programming with explosive revelations about a criminal syndicate that has controlled our city for 40 years. Through the window, I saw Richard on his phone, his face twisted with rage. But he wasn't looking at the building anymore. He was looking up the street where police cars were arriving. Not local police, state police, FBI. Someone else had been watching. Someone else had been waiting. As Jenny continued, as the ledger's secrets spilled out, I felt something shift. The shack had one more secret, one more card to play, because there had been another watcher all along. Someone in the shadows, documenting everything, just like the syndicate had documented me. The cigarette butts, the mysteriously appearing notebook with my name on it, the convenient discovery of the cellar. Someone had been guiding me. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Well played, Mrs. Whitmore. Your husband would be proud. The rest of the evidence is en route to federal authorities. Signed, JF. JF. Joseph Fisher. But Joseph Fisher had been dead for 40 years. Hadn't he? The federal agents cordoned off the Tribune building. Jenny's broadcast went viral, picked up by national networks before Richard's people could suppress it. 3 days later, I sat in the town library's basement archives, surrounded by boxes of old newspapers and microfiche the syndicate hadn't thought to destroy. Elena sat across from me. Found something, she said. Joseph Fisher had a son. Death certificate filed in 1986, 1 year before Joseph supposedly died. But look at this. She pulled up another document. School enrollment records show A.J. Fisher Jr. attending private school in Switzerland from 1986 to 1990. My pulse quickened. He faked his son's death. Or someone did. The death certificate was signed by Dr. Marcus Whitmore, Sr., Elena continued. Richard's older brother. He died in a boating accident 2 months after signing it. Another accident. Another convenient death. The pattern was chillingly clear. My phone buzzed. Another text from JF. Municipal Records, Box 1847. Third folder. Time you knew the whole truth. 1847, the shack's address. I found a box, hands trembling. Inside the third folder, property deeds. For buildings all over town, purchased between 1970 and 1987. All in my mother's maiden name. Fisher. Oh my God, I breathed. My mother owned half the town, and never knew it. The deeds were tucked behind falsified documents showing the transfers to shell companies, but the originals were here, hidden in plain sight. Sophia, if these are legitimate, you don't just own that shack, Elena said. You own them all. The business district, 3 hotels, billions in real estate. Which explains why they needed me under control, I said. The pieces finally clicking into place. It wasn't just about keeping me quiet. They needed me alive, but ignorant, in case anyone ever challenged their ownership. They could always produce me as the heir who had willingly transferred the properties. A shadow fell across the table. I looked up. An elderly man, but straight-backed, with eyes that seemed familiar. He wore an expensive suit, a shoulder holster beneath. Mrs. Whitmore, he said quietly. We need to talk. Elena started to stand, but the man held up a hand. I'm not with them. I've been fighting them for 40 years. My name is James Fisher, Joseph's son, the one who supposedly died. I stared at him. The same jawline, the same intense gaze. You sent the texts, I said. He nodded. I've been watching, waiting for the right moment. When Marcus married you, I thought it was over. They'd won. But then Marcus started having doubts. He reached out to me, wanted to know the truth about his family's empire. You were in contact with Marcus for the last 6 months of his life. He was gathering evidence, planning to bring them all down. The ledger you found, Marcus compiled most of it. He was going to give it to you on your anniversary. Tell you everything. James's face darkened. Richard found out 3 days before. You know the rest. I thought about Marcus's strange behavior. The late nights. The mysterious calls. The way he'd held me like he was saying goodbye. He'd known. Why didn't you help him? Elena demanded. I tried. I warned him to run. But Marcus believed he could outsmart his father. He thought Richard would never. James swallowed hard. He underestimated how far Richard would go to protect the syndicate. And now? I asked, what's your plan? James pulled a thick envelope from his jacket. 40 years of evidence. Everything my father gathered. Everything I've collected. Everything Marcus added. Bank records, murder confessions, recorded conversations. The FBI has copies, but I wanted you to have the originals. Why? Because this is your fight now. Your inheritance. Not just the properties, but the responsibility to see justice done. He stood. They'll come for me now that I've shown myself. But it doesn't matter anymore. The truth is out. Wait, I said as he turned. Your father, the things Richard said about him, lies, James said flatly. My father was investigating child trafficking in the foster system. He got too close to the truth. Found out some powerful people were involved. So they killed him. Destroyed his reputation to make sure no one would listen if any evidence surfaced. He walked away, disappearing into the stacks. Why try to follow? He was gone. Inside the envelope, photos of Marcus and James together. USB drives with recordings. Financial records leading to judges, senators, even a governor. The syndicate wasn't just local. It was a cancer throughout the state. We need to get this to the FBI immediately. Elena said, but I was looking at something else. A note in Marcus's handwriting, dated the day before he died. Sophia, if you're reading this, then I failed to protect you, and I'm sorry. The shack isn't your prison. It's your weapon. Everything they've built sits on stolen land, your land. The original deeds are hidden in the library, box 1847. The development contracts are all fraudulent. One lawsuit and their entire empire crumbles. But be careful. They'll kill to protect it. Trust Jenny Martinez. Trust Agent Sarah Coleman at the FBI. And trust yourself. You're stronger than you know. All my love. Tears blur my vision. He tried to save me, even knowing it would cost him everything. My phone rang. Jenny Martinez. Sophia, you need to see the news now. We ran upstairs. A crowd had gathered around the television. Breaking news. Richard Whitmore arrested in federal corruption probe. There he was led away in handcuffs. His face a mask of cold fury. Then, more shocking, Patricia Whitmore, Marcus's mother, also in cuffs. Her perfect composure finally cracked. The FBI raided their homes an hour ago, Jenny said, appearing beside me. Found enough evidence to put them away for life. But Sophia, there's something else. She handed me her phone. A news article from that morning. Local businessman found dead in apparent suicide. The businessman was James Fisher, the man I'd just spoken to. Dead since dawn. That's impossible, I whispered, my voice shaking. He was just here. He gave me this. I held up the envelope. Jenny's expression was grim. Security footage shows you and Elena alone at that table for the past 2 hours. No one else came near you. The envelope was real. The documents inside. But James Fisher was dead. Had been dead for hours before our conversation. Elena grabbed my arm. Sophia, we need to leave now. Because standing in the library entrance were 3 men from the syndicate files. Enforcers. Not arrested. Walking toward us with purpose. We didn't run. I walked straight toward them, my phone recording. Mrs. Whitmore, the lead man said smoothly. Daniel Morrison. I represent certain interests that would like to make you an offer. Morrison? As in Detective Morrison, who played poker with Richard. My father's on Richard's payroll. His smile didn't waver. My father is currently in federal custody. Actually, turns out he kept meticulous records of every bribe he took. Very embarrassing for the family. He gestured toward a conference room. Shall we talk privately? Anything you have to say can be said right here. Very well. Daniel pulled out a tablet. We're prepared to acknowledge your inheritance claim to the Fisher properties. Full market value, approximately $2.8 billion. All you have to do is sign a non-disclosure agreement about past irregularities. Irregularities? You mean murders? I mean business practices that, while perhaps aggressive, were standard for the time. His tone remained pleasant, but his eyes were cold. Take the deal, Mrs. Whitmore. You'll be wealthy beyond imagination. I already am, I said, holding up the original deeds. These predate your fraudulent contracts. I don't need your acknowledgement. I own those properties outright. For the first time, Daniel's composure cracked. Those documents won't hold up in court. Too many questions about their authenticity. Then I guess we'll let a judge decide. I turned to walk away. Melissa Crawford would like to speak with you. About Marcus. About what really happened that night. The mention of Marcus froze me. Melissa, the mistress. She sat at the polished conference table, looking nothing like the confident woman from the will reading. Her clothes were wrinkled, her makeup smeared, her hands shaking. He wasn't supposed to die, she said, her voice raw.